We are joined today by Steve.Kuker, the founder and president of Senior Care Consulting. This is our second Zoom call that we've had. The first one was super valuable, and I got a lot of positive feedback on that. The topic that we're going to talk about today came up, which is the VA's aid and attendance benefit, and I thought that would be a really good topic to dig into a little bit deeper because I had never heard of it, and I think there's a lot of people that qualify for it that aren't aware of it. Is that right?
That is exactly right. I don't think most people have heard of this, frankly.
Yeah, and these veterans, especially the ones that qualify for this benefit, have earned it, and they need to take advantage of it if they're eligible and if they're able to. So I appreciate you volunteering some more time to educate us on this. One of the things I appreciate about Steve is the fact that oftentimes what he does is tell people, you don't need me yet, do this instead, and extend the period of time that you don't need his services. So I respect and appreciate that approach. It aligns with the way I like to approach my business. So well done, Stephen.
Thank you.
Okay. So if anybody wants a little bit more background, refer back to our first interview. We talked about exactly what Senior Care Consulting does and the origin story, which is really good. I do want to talk real quick about senior care. It's expensive. How in the world do people pay for senior care?
It is expensive indeed. It was increasing at a pretty good clip, and then COVID happened, and everyone held their pricing. And about a year after that, the pricing exploded to go back to try to recoup some of the cost. It's going crazy right now. For example, in assisted living, I used to say $5,000 to $6,000 was a pretty solid average. And now it's very clearly $6,000 to $8,000 per month. If you look at long-term care, I used to say, $7,000, $8,000 could get you a shared room in long-term care. Now it's solidly $9,000 to maybe $10,000 per month. A private room in long-term care now goes for a staggering $11,000 to about $15,000 per month. So it's very expensive. Wow. Most people, they're writing a check for the cost of care. Sometimes Medicare will pay for just a very specific, but right. Medicare does not pay for much of anything. So are there other payment sources that can be utilized? And a huge one, again, most people have never heard of it, the VA aid and attendance benefit. When I sit down to work with my clients every single time, part of my geriatric care assessment is the question, are you a veteran or was your spouse a veteran? If the answer is yes, then we're going to have a discussion on this benefit. It's very valuable. It's a huge difference maker, and it's designed specifically to say thank you to the veteran or their surviving spouse for your service, and we're going to help you pay for some of the high cost of senior care.
Yeah. Before we jump into exactly what the benefit is and what it covers, let's talk about who qualifies.
Yeah, you have to jump through a few hoops. There's a service-related requirement. The two big ones are service-related and financial. So the service part of it is you must have served at least 90 consecutive days of active duty or more, at least one of those days during a period of war, and then not dishonorably discharged. Most people are honorably discharged, but there are other discharges, medical discharges, et cetera, just not dishonorably discharged. And then on the financial side of things, your income must be less than the cost of care on a monthly basis. The cost of care is so high, that's pretty easy to qualify for that one. And then the 2024 number is 155, 356 or less. And that's a liquid asset. So they exempt the value of your home, all of the stuff in your home, and a vehicle. But checking, savings, money market, mutual funds, CDs, all of the liquid assets, that's the number or less. If you have a little bit more than that, you can spend down to that 155, 356, and at that point qualify.
Got it. So when you talk about during a period of war, does that just mean they were enlisted at that time, or do they have to have been in combat?
It's just serving during a period of war. You may have never carried a rifle. You could have been stateside in a logistics role or some sort of a support role, but it's just during a period of war that you were
Okay,
enlisted and considered technically active duty.
got it.
So the actual benefit is for a veteran, and it also extends to the surviving spouse of a veteran. They must require assistance with at least 2 activities of daily living. So you're paying someone to help you with your bathing, dressing, mobility or transferring, eating, and toileting. So those are the 5 activities of daily living that the VA recognizes. And if you move into assisted living or long-term care, you're going to qualify. You're going to check at least 2 of those boxes. And so that's the care requirement part of this equation, if you will.
Okay. So in your experience, you've come across people who are already paying for some of these things and find out they can get some help from the VA to cover things. And is that one of the requirements, that you must already be paying for this service, or you need the services?
It could be both. So let's say you're declining at home, you're looking at moving to an assisted living community where you're going to be receiving care and helping you with some of those activities of daily living. So once you move in to that assisted living community, you can file your application and that could start the process. You may be already living at home. Like you said, I've helped a lot of folks remain independent at home for a longer period of time. They didn't really need my help. And some of that would be bringing in a home care provider and receiving help with those activities of daily living in your own home. So you may already be receiving that care and paying for that care. And maybe you just heard about the VA aid and attendance benefit. You can go ahead and apply at that point as well. But you must be paying someone to help you with at least 2 activities of daily living. And that is that third hoop or trigger, if you will.
Okay, great. Let's circle back to the periods of war, because one of your slides that you provided me, it gives some specific dates. So you want to cover those?
Yep, sure. So most of my clients are from the World War II era or the Korean conflict. And so World War II, the official dates that would qualify you for this benefit, December 7th, 1941, all the way through December 31st, 1946. Serve 1 day during that period, you would qualify. The Korean War, more and more of my clients served in that Korean conflict. On that, the official dates of periods of war, June the 27th, 1950 through January 31st, 1955. And then now the Vietnam War veterans are starting to get to the age where some of them are now needing some care and would qualify. So for all parties, August the 5th, 1964, all the way through May the 7th of 1975. So in any of those periods of war that I just discussed or shared, you don't have to fire a rifle. You could have been stateside or not in a theater of war. You could have been in a support type of a role, communications, logistics, et cetera, and you would qualify. There is one notable exception to all of that. There's in the Vietnam War, if you did have boots on the ground, you were in Vietnam, you were involved directly. The Vietnam War period of war goes back to February 28th, 1961. If you weren't in Vietnam or you weren't on a ship right outside of Vietnam, for all others in the Vietnam War, August the 5th of 64, all the way through May 7th, 1975. Hopefully that's not too confusing. So they do have that one exception for boots on the ground, but everyone else would qualify for all of those periods of war.
In the most recent, I guess, is a war on terror. I'm not sure what the official name is, but these people would most likely be younger, but if they've got a service-related disability, et cetera, they could be in need of some care. So what are the dates for that?
Yeah, so Gulf War, August the 2nd, 1990, and they haven't really declared that one over as far as official period of war for the purpose of qualifying for this benefit. So that one's still open-ended. They're definitely younger I haven't worked with anyone that would qualify with that experience, but it's not impossible, that's for sure. So,
Got it. Got it. Okay. So that covers the date range that you need to fall within one of those for each specific or conflict. So tell me, what is the benefit? Is there a maximum amount or an amount that people receive if they qualify for the benefit?
yeah, yeah. And these are hot off the press 2024 numbers.
Okay.
A single veteran could receive a maximum of $2,300 a month. And it won't pay for all of the care, but it sure will pay for a big piece of it. A married veteran, a maximum of $2,727. And this one is really valuable. So you lost your husband or you lost your wife who was the veteran, and you were married. When you lost him, you're the surviving spouse, is what they would refer to that as. You could apply and receive up to a maximum of $1,478 per month. And so those are the three primary. If you have two married veterans, it's up to $3,649 a month. I've not worked with two married veterans in this capacity. Usually it's a single veteran who has lost a spouse and they can qualify, or the surviving spouse can still get that 1478. Those are the two kind of the main qualifying groups that I've worked with.
Yeah. Listen, 2,300 or 1478 or 2,700, especially if you're still living at home and need a home health care, that can certainly help. And especially people that are trying to do it on their own. I think there's some home health care agencies who come in for X amount of hours per day to assist with the things that you talked about. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. You could hire a home care company to come in and help you with some of these activities of daily living. If you're receiving help with at least two of them and you're paying someone money for that help and you're incurring that expense, then we're on the road to qualifying for this thing. Where you trigger the maximum payout of the 2,300, for example, for the single veteran, let's say your income is $2,000 a month, and let's say you're spending $5,000 a month for a home care provider to come in to help you with that. Okay, so this is some funny government math. They're looking for your income for VA purposes, or the abbreviation is IVAP. So they take your income in that example of $2,000 minus the cost of unreimbursed medical expenses, which is $5,000, which is your home care cost. So that's a negative $3,000 a month income amount. That's your IVAP figure. It gets a little bit weird. Again, government math. As long as it's zero or at a negative number, it triggers that maximum payout. If you're receiving very much care at all, it's pretty easy to spend more on the cost of care than your income. As long as you're spending more than your monthly income on the cost of care, it triggers the monthly amount. Every single person I've worked with, it triggers the monthly amount.
The maximum.
The maximum monthly amount.
Right.
Yeah.
The activities of daily living. Let's do those again. They're bathing,
dressing, mobility and transferring, eating, and toileting.
Mobility and transferring is getting to and from doctor appointment.
To and from your bed to the bathroom. Mobility assistance to and from wherever you're going. Transferring means, so if I'm getting out of bed and I'm weakened to the point to where I can't quite get from my bed maybe to my walker or my wheelchair, I can't quite get in and out of the shower, I need someone to help me, steady me, or maybe even kind of help lift a little bit and help me from point A to point B. That would be considered assistance with transferring. And so I need help with that, and or I need help with my mobility, getting from this point to this point. That's where that would qualify as an activity of daily living.
Okay. All right. This is all fascinating. I mean, it sounds like it's something that's not well known by the general public.
It's absolutely not. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you educating them. When you come across somebody who may qualify for this, what do you?
So I refer them to the national headquarters of the VFW. And they happen to be just right downtown Kansas City. It's pretty convenient to have them in town. And they have veteran service officers that are very eager to help that veteran qualify for any and all benefits that they may qualify for. And they're free of charge. You don't have to be a member of the VFW to receive their help. It's a fantastic organization.
So any words of wisdom, any do's or don'ts?
I had a veteran service officer on my radio program recently from the national headquarters of the VFW, and he put out a warning. I'd never heard this term, and he called them claim sharks. So there are some people out in the world that will say, hey, veteran, I can help you qualify for this program that will get you reimbursed. And for my help, I want 20%. I want 30, I want 50%, but I won't charge you a thing to do it. If you're awarded that claim or that benefit, then you can just pay me when you get your money. And I don't do that. There's no reason to do that. That benefit is not theirs, it's yours. You earned it with your service. Call the VFW. They're free of charge. They will not charge you a penny. They're your advocate, and they will help you through this. They'll help you fill out the application. This is a government benefit, so you have to answer a lot of questions, provide some documentation, etc. But once you do that, they'll help you file a clean claim, and then it's just waiting for the processing. It could take 2 or 3 months. It could take 6 months to get approved. But once it's approved, they pay retroactive to the application date, so you get a big check up front and then monthly amount thereafter.
So your recommendation for somebody, if they're curious whether they qualify or if they need help applying for the benefit, is to contact the VFW, which again is right downtown. Yeah. And so you refer them directly to the VFW. Do you ask for anybody specifically or just call the main number?
Yeah, I have a couple of phone numbers if anyone would like to write them down. There's a direct line straight to a group that handles the aid and assistance processing. That phone number is 816-968-1153. And then if you would like to just call the main number of the national headquarters of the VFW, that number is 816-756-3390. And they're located right downtown. It's 406 West 34th Street, Kansas City, Missouri. A great group of people there.
Listen, we appreciate that. So Steve, one of the slides that you gave me was an actual example of the aid and attendance without the benefit and with the benefit. So we'll put that up on the screen if we can, but do you want to walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. So there's a really good example without the benefit and then with the benefit. It makes a huge difference. Let's say you don't look into the benefit. Maybe you're not aware of the benefit. Let's say your assets are $150,000. You're moving into an assisted living community that costs $7,000 per month. And let's say your income is $3,000. So if you just do the quick math, you're going to be short by $4,000 per month. So your $150,000 in assets, you're going to be dipping into that by $4,000 per month. So without that VA aid and attendance benefit, your assets will last just a little over 3 years, and then you're out of money. With the benefit, that same person, $150,000 in assets, your assisted living is $7,000, your income is $3,000, but with the VA aid and attendance benefit, it's $2,300 a month. Now your monthly income is $5,300. Now you're short $1,700, not the $4,000, but you're only short $1,700 a month. So you dip into that asset base every month by $1,700. With the aid and attendance benefit, your assets will last 7.3 years, over twice as long. So you could, what that means in the real world is with the aid and attendance benefit, that person can live at the assisted living level of care for over 7 years. It's over twice as long just by adding that VA aid and attendance benefit. It can make a huge difference for a veteran, for sure.
So again, Steve's company, Senior Health Consulting, what they do is they help people when it's time to transition from home to either an assisted living facility or a long-term care facility. Again, I would urge you to refer back to our first call where we spend a pretty decent amount of time covering exactly what Steve does, but it's a super valuable benefit. Most of us are going to be there at some point, right?
Yeah, according to the long-term care insurance business, they track all of this stuff. 70% of all of us will require and pay for long-term care at some point in our lives. That's exciting. So
Yeah.
It's also expensive.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to spend the life savings when you're paying out $7,000, $10,000, $12,000 a month. And the big purpose of what you do and why you do it is to help people make the best decision possible. If you have a loved one that's in that position where they need that care, most of us don't know enough about how to help them find the right place. Number one, it can be very time consuming. And number two, we don't know what to look for. We don't know what questions to ask. And that's basically where your experience and expertise come in.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I appreciate your time and your willingness to share this information. Again, a lot of times when you do this, you're not doing it because it benefits senior care consulting. You're doing this to help people extend the period of time before they do actually need your service, or at least if they do need the service now, get some help in paying for it. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And on my radio show, Senior Care Live, I spend a fair amount of time talking about all of the different ways to remain independent at home. I had someone ask me one time early on in my development of senior care consulting, so are you just trying to put everybody in a nursing home? And I'm like, no, no, I think all people should remain as independent as possible for as long as possible, for as long as it makes sense. Stay at home. According to the AARP, they did a huge study. No surprise, 90% of people responding to that survey said, I want to stay home. Of course, we all do. So I talk a lot about that on my radio program. But when it's time, when it's no longer working, it is time to move from your home to a senior care community. That's the niche that I live in to help people through that search and selection process in an effort to find the best place available, meeting their exact needs. That's where I live with senior care consulting.
After we did our last show, a real estate agent that I know and have worked with for a long time, and she has recently moved into kind of a niche of wanting to work with seniors. And so she asked me to connect her with Steve. So I said, well, let's just go have lunch. I'll tag along too. And so it was really informative for me just to sit and watch their conversation. And what struck me was Steve knows about everybody in Kansas City that is associated with senior care. And so Steve is a wealth of information for anybody that needs help, really probably with anything related to senior care. So just wanted to throw that out. And so if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Steve, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can just pick up the phone, 913-945-2800, or you can visit the website. A lot of information there, seniorcareconsulting.com.
Listen, we appreciate your time, and we will do this again because there are so many different topics related to it. Maybe the next one we'll tackle is how in the heck do people pay for this with the super high expense. So.
Yep. I always appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
All right. See you next time.